Okay, let's talk Don Broco.
Literally, I was like, whoa, that is crazy.
Volume suddenly goes up.
I was so wrong. It sounded awful.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was. Still don't.
You'll get there.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Not in the Background podcast, your weekly dose of music talk and music recommendations. Today, we're going to be talking about UK-based rock band from Bedford in England, Don Broco. This is a band of 4 guys who they started actually making music together when they were in high school and doing gigs and that, but they were officially formed in 2008 and they've gone from there. I'm going to talk about a few things with these because I've loved this band for a long time, and it's going to be slightly contrasting to my previous episodes because I'm going to be talking a lot more about their vibe as opposed to specific lyrical content. And I've gone on quite a deep dive with some very introspective bands recently, and now I'm going to be talking more about the energy that a band gives instead. So Don Broco I discovered at Slam Dunk Festival, which is in basically northwest London. I call it northwest London for ease for international viewers. And they played the Vans Off the Wall stage there. This was so Slam Dunk's in May every year. This was actually 3 months before their debut album came out. Prior to 2012, they'd released some EPs and some singles, but they hadn't released a full album. And then they released their first debut album, which was called Priorities. And Priorities, the single, was the title track off of it. To describe the song Priorities, fantastic song, fantastic anthem, and it really tells you about the kind of vibe of the band, at least at that time. They've changed a bit now in directions because this was, nearly 20 years ago. But at the time, there was a lot of, I'd call it bro rock, to be honest, because the song Priorities is literally about wanting to go out with your mate and your mate to come out with you, but every time his partner calls and messages him, he's always dropping the guys and going and doing whatever with her, and basically at her beck and call. Hence the name Priorities. And that was a lot of kind of what the Don Broco was saying in their earlier time. It was a lot of like the cohesive mateness of them, and then that would come out in their rock songs, and the energy was just always so palpable and so intense and so much fun to just go and see. Before I saw them in 2012, and I can remember being stood in the crowd and watching them and being like, these guys are fantastic. And I hadn't heard anything from them prior. And then I started, the album came out, I started listening to that and more of the songs from it. Saw them again at Slam Dunk the year after, funnily enough. But yeah, I just was really enamored by the energy of them. They have a song called Thug Workout, which, again, check out the music video for it because it's fantastic and tells you a lot about who they were as a band and, part of their progression. And what they would do is they would get the crowd in the sort of breakdown of the song to, well, they'd ask the crowd. They wouldn't force them to, but everyone would always do it, which is they'd make a human pyramid. So people would be on the bottom of it and then on the top and so on. And then, from what I remember, they'd try and get everyone to do a press up in the pyramid, which was just insane, but it was an incredible moment every single time. You've got your walls of death, you've got your mosh pits, but your Don Broco Thug Workout, communal press up is a fantastic thing and a fantastic thing to be a part of. I did it once. Now in my, I wouldn't say old age, but older age, I'm not taking part in any thug workouts. So that was that, and I sort of thought, okay, there's an energy, there's a vibe here, this is great. I saw him again the year after at Slam Dunk, and this was obviously, a year after the album had been released and all that. And they were starting to get plays on Radio 1, which is a radio station here in the UK. It's kind of the premier all-around music radio station rather than a specific rock station. We've got like Kerrang, for example, or Radio X that are our rock stations, but Radio 1 is kind of across the board, everything, and what, the main like radio station basically. They were getting plays on there, and actually met the bassist and the guitarist from them that year. Literally me and a friend of mine, shout out Niall, from my best mate from secondary school, and I was doing well. And we met them. We were just getting some food, I think. And we got a picture of them, was chatting to them, and said, both love your bands, like great performance and all this. And they went, oh, that's good to hear. We've got some exciting stuff in the pipeline. And then literally, as I said, this is May, a few months later, they played the Reading main stage, which was sick, and saw them at Reading as well that year. So pulled double duty, and it was great to see them, progressing. So that was kind of the start. That's how we kind of found them out and found out about their sound and, really enjoyed them and the power and the energy. When they brought out their second album, so their second album was called Automatic, that was the album that really sort of cemented my love for them. And funny enough, their sound went in such a different way. You had this initial quite raw sounding rock sound to them. And then with the Automatic, they kind of weaved in some more like 80s rock sounding visuals and sounds and guitar. And it was a real combination of things, and felt like they were starting to find their own unique sound and branch out a bit. The interesting thing about the album Automatic is, and I didn't find this out till I was doing some research for the episode, but it actually didn't get very much acclaim. It came out and people didn't really like it that much. And they actually left their record label and went to a different record label, which they've been with since. But one of the interesting and incredible things about music is if you like it, you like it. You don't have to justify it. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't matter what a magazine says or someone else says. If you like the music, you like the music. And I loved this album. And I implore you that whoever you listen to, whether you exclusively listen to Selena Gomez or Justin Bieber, or if you exclusively listen to hard thrash metal, or, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, anything like that, just listen to it actively. Don't just have it on the background, hence the name of the podcast. Listen to it actively and just experience it. And if anyone else hates it, doesn't matter. Just enjoy what you want to enjoy. If you do only exclusively listen to one genre, I would recommend just branching out and trying some different things, because you might find some random stuff that you like. For example, I love some Taylor Swift songs. I also love songs from The Disturbed. I also love from Disturbed, not The Disturbed. That makes me sound like such a boomer. I also love songs from Seether. I also love songs from Queen. I've also, I saw Justin Bieber's performance at the Grammys where he did, I can't remember what the name of the song was, but the stripped back version of that song. I was like, yeah, there's the talent there. So I'm just a fan of music overall. So basically, ignore the haters. But yeah, so Automatic came out. I can remember listening to two of the songs of it, Fire and Nerve, actually in my second car that I ever had, which was a 2005 plate Vauxhall Corsa. I had two Vauxhall Corsas in my life. The first one was a 2002 plate. It actually had a tape deck in, and my uncle would make me tapes, and I got some off of my nan as well, of different things. Like I had the Pulp Fiction soundtrack on tape that I'd play in my car. So real cool. And then the engine exploded one day and it died a death. Then I got the second Vauxhall Corsa, which is a grey '05 plate one, had a subwoofer in the back. So listening to music was just fantastic. And I remember I used to always drive to work and I'd have Don Broco on, and this album was just such a representation of that time for me. But yeah, so I love the singles off this album. I love the energy. I understand why maybe people didn't like it so much, because it very much felt like they were finding their new sound. One of the things I spoke last week about Snow Patrol, and Snow Patrol have been very consistent across their body of work. Don Broco have not been consistent. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think they've been consistently at a high level, but they've found nuances and different ways to express the sounds that they want, and they've done different things. And so if you listen to Priorities is very different to their new album, which comes out on the 27th of March, which I'll talk about a bit later. So going back to Automatic, before we jump to that, one of the things about it they still, and I've always had with Don Broco, is the power and the energy. And their choruses are very, very singable choruses, very, Aerosmith style singing choruses that you can real get behind. I don't know if you've ever seen the video of Dave Grohl talking about Aerosmith, but he says all of their songs are, chorus, chorus, chorus. And that's why you sort of get into it. There's a episode of Justin Hawkins Rides Again where he talks about Aerosmith, and he says about the fact that you can sing a lot of their guitar riffs And like, so then you think about it, like, no wonder everyone loves Aerosmith. They're an amazing band and they just managed to make everything into an anthem. And Don Broco, I feel like, do that with their choruses. They make their choruses singable and you can be a part of the experience. If you see performances from their live gigs, you feel like you're part of what's happening, and they really engage the audience in what's happening. So as much as people maybe didn't like Automatic as much, I think it still captured what that Don Broco sound was. So you've got Priorities, you've got Automatic, very different sounding albums, but still had that authentic Don Broco ethos behind it, which was great. And I can still remember the choruses to all those songs now. And hopefully Don Broco announce a live tour this year. And if they come to London, we'll definitely be going to that. Because not just the old albums, now moving on to the last part of the episode where we're going to be talking about their latest album, which comes out, like I said, on the 27th of March. That's called Nightmare Trippin'. And we may as well start with the funnest part of it, which surprised me completely, which is the fact they have the title, the album track of the album, Nightmare Trippin', is a collaboration with the band Nickelback. I love the band Nickelback. And I'd argue that similar to Don Broco, you have that same chantable chorus-esque type thing. And I saw this come up on my YouTube recommended. And I hadn't listened to Don Broco for a few years, actually, because a few years isn't unfair. I'd listened to some singles and that, but I tend to discover music and then maybe venture away and then come back to it like I did with Snow Patrol. And then I saw this on YouTube. It said, Don Broco featuring Nickelback, Nightmare Trippin'. And I thought, what the hell is going on? Okay, I'll put it on. Put it on and just spent 5.5 minutes sitting there going, this is a combination of what seems like every single genre ever in rock music. And for some reason it just works. It's fantastic. It's just, I just listen to it because it's hard to describe. And it's so interesting because last week I spoke about, and a couple of weeks, Spirit Box and Snow Patrol, I've talked about, their lyrical content and how they express things and the emotion and all that. One of the lyrics, and I kid you not, in this song is Scorpions, Buried Alive, John Mayer still playing on my iPhone. Now, I wouldn't say that's the deepest lyric in the world, but that certainly conjures up an image because Nightmare Trippin' is all about sleep paralysis and the things you experience when you have sleep paralysis. I had sleep paralysis a couple of times when I was in university just because I had the worst sleep schedule in the entire world. And it's always bizarre and weird. And then you listen to this song and you're like, yep, you've captured that perfectly. Because I remember having sleep paralysis once and Liam Gallagher was in my room singing an Oasis song. And I remember hearing the Oasis song perfectly. And it wasn't even an Oasis song that existed, but I just remember it because I loved Oasis when I was back in university. Still do, but I went through a time where like all I listened to was Oasis. It's so listening to this song and hearing that the Scorpions Buried Alive and John Mayer still playing on my iPhone, almost like you've passed out, you've still got John Mayer playing, and now you're having all these bizarre sort of lucid dream aspects. So yeah, the imagery is fantastic, and the song goes from this really heavy, screamo opening section to then these slightly melodic things with then some sort of Enter Shikari sounding synth just before you get into the chorus. And then the chorus is Chad Kroger with some power vocals, adding to the song. And then, so there's all these different elements that come to it. And the song wraps up with 2 different guitar solos. So it's hard to even describe. Like, you can't put it, I spoke about Spirit Box and not being able to define them by a genre. You can't define this song by a genre. It just works. It really works. I found out that how the collaboration came together because it's such a interesting collaboration. 2 very different sounds and all that is basically Ryan, who's the guitarist for Nickelback. His brother loves Don Broco and told them about it. And then Don Broco told Ryan about Don Broco. Don Broco then played in Vancouver, where Nickelback are from. And they went and saw Don Broco. And then afterwards emailed them and said, yeah, we loved it. That was great. We've taken a deep dive on all your music videos and this is awesome. And obviously Don Broco were just like, this is great. They're an amazing rock band that's been around for a very long time at the top of the game. And they're telling us how much they love our music. Like, brilliant. And a year later, they'd written the song Nightmare Trippin' and just thought, okay, let's take a chance. Let's message Nickelback, which sounds like a bizarre thing to say, and go, do you want to record this with us? And then Nickelback came back straight away and went, yep, this sounds great, let's do it. And then it came together, and then you've got this beautiful chaos that's come out of it. The song Nightmare Trippin'. It's such a blend of different genres, and it's so unusual, but it works, and again, it's got the power. The lyrics aren't the deepest in the world, but it captures a story. Like, it sometimes feels a bit, I don't think it's elitist, but pretentious is the word I'm looking for, to be like, well, I only listen to music that has, very deep lyrics all the time. Fantastic, brilliant. But that's not the case. I said this in, I think, the first episode I recorded, or it might have been the Spirit Box episode, where I said about I get different things from music sometimes. Sometimes I just want some energy. I don't really care about the lyrics. I just want some energy. And then another band, I want some, deep lyrics from it. I want to be taken on a story and a journey and all that. And being able to do both of those and find different bands that you get different things from is amazing. I love that about Don Broco. But my girlfriend, I've just introduced her to Don Broco, and she loves them. And my girlfriend loves a lot of punk music, and she loves the energy with it, and she loves the energy that comes from songs. She can listen to her favorite song 50 times and not tell you the lyrics, because she's not necessarily listening specifically to the lyrics. She loves the energy of it. And I love that. And this is a bit more what I get from Don Broco. So, it doesn't always have to be, the deepest, most melancholic lyrics in the world, because otherwise you're just listening to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds constantly. But you want a combination of things. So what I think you get from Don Broco is that energy, that power, that fun. And they do have some songs which are a bit, more melancholic, but you just don't get that as often with them. And I think that's great. And I think they know their identity. And if you listen to the other tracks off the album, like Euphoria and Hype Man, there's still an element of that sort of bro rock from 20 years ago with the Priorities album, but it's melded with this sound that they have. They've got such a unique sound. It's heavy in places, but then really soft and light and, cowbell-esque in certain places, and 80s in places, and really like British rock in places. So I think the cool thing with Don Broco is being able to see their journey and how they've weaved in elements of their old work and then tried different things, and they've got to a point where they've got a really big cult following from people. And I, for one, I'm really looking forward to the new album, and I definitely say check them out. And to start off with, I'd start off with Priorities, the album, because it gives you a real sense of who they are, and that sense of the sort of heaviness in places, but being able to still sing the lyrics and what their identity is. So to start off with Priorities, my favorite song off of that album is a song called Whole Truth. And so I listened to that. Then I'd say, to be honest, jump to Automatic, listen to the song Nerve off Automatic, because that gives you a sense of like the slight different change. And I think that's probably a less uplifting song, but it still has the power of them. And then I would say listen to Nightmare Trippin', the single off the new album, because across the board, even if you don't like all of their albums, you'll find something you enjoy. And that may be their earlier work, their earlier EPs, prior to Priorities coming out, or you might absolutely love their new work, or you might love some things in between. There's a song called Gum Shield off another one of their albums, which they actually teased a fake boxing fight, which ended up being just a promo for the song and the music video. So they do some weird stuff, and it's great. So I'd check out the Priorities album, song Whole Truth off that if you just want a song to start with. Jump to Automatic, jump to the song Nerve, then listen to the song Gum Shield, because that gives you another thing. And also the drummer sings a lot in the song, so you get a real variety of vocal performances, and the drummer and lead singer sound so different that it really adds to the full structure of the songs. So I'm gonna end up reeling off so many songs to go with otherwise. So I'll give you those ones that I've mentioned. And then, like I said, check out Nightmare Tripping, the album track from the new album, which, like I said, comes out on the 27th of March. And I'll be getting it, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of what's on the album, and then also looking forward to seeing how they progress with their sound in the future. So perfect. Thanks for joining me for another episode. Give it a like and a subscribe. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more, let me know what your thoughts are on Don Broco. If you've never listened to him before, give him a listen, listen to those songs. Tell me what you like and you don't like. Tell me if there's any bands that you want me to talk about in the future or any albums you think I should check out. And then I will see you again next week.